Alright guys, welcome back to the Mott's Big Bass. It's the Mott coming back at you. Had several of you asked me about the setup and stuff I use for throwing my 8-inch MagDraft. Sorry, my house is getting kind of claustrophobic for me here a little bit. Let me get back over here for you. So I thought I'd go over and start showing you basically everything that I use, the knot that I use, everything. This right here is a Dobyns Fury 8-foot heavy swim bait rod. It is the FR 806 SB. As far as the money goes, this is probably the best swim bait on the market for under $150. Actually, probably anything under $200. This is the best swim bait rod on the market. This and the iRod. I wouldn't even really try to go anywhere else besides those two. As far as a swim bait rod goes, I mean, I do like the Daiwa a little bit, but as far as versatility, that Daiwa swim bait rod you've seen me use on the video before is a very much more of a glide bait kind of rod. It's not really what you would call a big swim bait kind of rod. It has a really soft action, where this one here is a lot firmer, so you can throw a lot bigger bait on this. This is the PC Fun Elios. This is the 8-to-1. One of the main reasons why I love this reel is when I engage it. See the lever here pop up? When you make that cast out by a bush and a big girl bites it, instead of trying to set the handle, all you do is push that button straight down. And it engages the spool, and she's not going anywhere. Because a lot of times when you get on by that big bush, when you're throwing a big bait with a big old treble hook on it, you don't want her to get anywhere near that bush. Because she gets you tangled up, more than likely this hook's going to get hung on the bush, and she's going to use it for leverage to unhook her. And it's going to ruin your day. I mean, it'll flat out ruin your day. I just realized I forgot to bring, usually I use a heavy duty swivel for this. Not swivel, but a snap. But you can tie directly to the bait as well. Oh, and this is Daiwa Justron. It's their hard mono. This is 28 pound. But it's about the same diameter as most companies' 20 pound. This stuff is some really good mono. I used to use 20 pound fluorocarbon all the time. And then I noticed when I was fishing a little bit near rocks and stuff, I was getting too close to the bottom and it would just get hung up on the bottom. So I went back, I started using mono. And what happens is mono gives you a little more lift. So you get that bait, instead of being hitting that rock, it's kind of running true right over across the top of that rock. It works really good for me. My experience might not be the same as everybody else's, but it works good for me. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this so I can show you how to get the MagDraft set up. Chris Zaldane, I mean, he has a lot of good videos on MagDraft, and for the most part, I do mine about the exact same way he does his. This is an 8-inch MagDraft. It weighs 2 ounces. It has a magnet on the belly. Your hook kind of hangs right here and stays right there on that magnet. I'm gonna show you a trick that I use with this as well. I just don't use just that magnet, because sometimes, I mean, I use the magnet, but that's not the only thing I use, because sometimes, especially when you're fishing around docks and stuff, that hook will come down when you have this big swinging treble out here. And I use a stock hook. I don't use anything but the stock hook. If the hook gets dull or whatever, I'll change it out, but I use nothing but the standard hook. When I have to change it out, I'll go to a 2/0 treble. It's a teeny bit bigger than this hook, but I think it works just as good. One of the things you want to do with this is grab your pliers, grab one of the barbs, and just bend it out slowly. Don't bend it out really fast. You don't want to put extra pressure on that thing. But you want to bend that hook out really slow. If you go too fast, you're going to make it break. Then you're going to take that barb and you're going to stick it right in the belly. Just like that. Now you have these two barbs sitting down here. You have the magnet holding it, and you have that barb in the belly. That makes it stay perfectly in line. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to tie it to your line. Let's see if I have enough line here. That should be good. The knot I like to use, I guess I saw Jimmy Houston doing this knot several years ago. But also Gerald Swindle uses it. Several other people use it. So, I mean, it's not my knot by any means. If you want to have a heavy duty snap, I'll use a heavy duty snap. It just gives it a little bit more action. But what I do is I take my line, I pinch it, make a little loop, and I double it. And know before you ask, I'm not doing a Palomar. I've had too many failures with Palomars. I hardly ever tie them. And everybody loves a Palomar and this, that, and the other. But I mean, when you set the hook as hard as I do, especially with fluorocarbon, that Palomar bites into itself and it'll cut through itself. All right, there's your doubled up line right there. You're gonna come back up here. I'm gonna run it around itself. Come on, you stay up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You gotta make sure you keep your loop straight. You're gonna come back to your original hole here. Yeah, make sure you're going through both. Then you're gonna come back up. You're gonna go back through the original hole you have here. Then you're gonna grab it. You're gonna wet it a little bit. I start pulling it out here before I snug it down here. You're gonna pull it really slow, because if you don't, it'll start binding up on top of itself. You're gonna pull it really tight. Then you grab your main line. You pull your tag back up again. Of course, it wants to do this when I'm talking. You're gonna pull these out. Pull it really tight. Okay, try again. You gotta be careful you don't get this treble in your hand. And this mono is it'll actually cut into you. When it says hard mono, they mean hard mono. For whatever reason, it's wanting to form a loop here on me. There it goes, finally. All right, so you're gonna have your tag in and a loop in. You're gonna take your scissors, cut both of them off, cut it kind of close to the bait, it ain't going nowhere. And there's your finished knot. Make sure your hook's back in there. All right, guys, sorry about that. So I needed a couple things. So like I was saying, there's your finished rig MagDraft. The thing that makes a MagDraft different than all your other big style swim bait, soft swim baits, is this kind of square tail. And you see how soft it is? And the way that the thing's made, it just has like a different action. This tail kicks a lot more and the body wiggles back and forth, especially at slow speeds. Huddleston, I used to love Huddlestons. And through the years, I mean, yeah, the price is good on some of them. And yes, I mean, as far as cold water goes, Huddlestons work probably better than this. Maybe. Just because they do a lot less action. But as far as my choice goes, from spring, summer, fall, even a lot in the wintertime, especially the early part of the wintertime when it's not cold yet, this is my bait of choice as far as like the soft style swim bait. I like this in the 6 inch, 8 inch, and the freestyle. The freestyles when you're basically putting your own hook in it. I use a Beast 8-aught hook. Sometimes I'll use the VMC 7-aught hook. It fits it just as well. Now, this is not like you're going to throw it out there and burn it back to the boat kind of bait. You're going to be slow rolling this bait most of the time. You're going to throw it out there and slow roll it back to the bait. Back to the boat, I mean. Most of my cadence is pretty much, let me lay out some line. Most of my cadence is just like this right here, just slowly moving the bait. And that's how you know, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to get this on camera, but you can kind of see this bait's free hanging, and it's hardly making the rod tip bend. And it's making it bend just enough so you can tell it's going to load the rod when you throw it, but it's not going to overpower the rod. That's what's hard in this price range, to find a swim bait rod that's not going to be overpowered by your 3 and 4 ounce baits. Now, what I go over, I mean, this is rated, I think it's rated up to 8 ounces. Would I do 8 ounces on this rod? No, I would not. It's not really heavy enough for that. I mean, and truth be known, I mean, I do have some baits that are 3 and 4 ounces. 4 ounces, I probably wouldn't throw it on this either. There's other rods out there that they're about in the same price range that are better suited for it. Let's see, I have the Tatula 300 coming in. I want to try that as well. On the MagDraft 6-inch, I just basically use a Dobbins Champion Extreme 7'4" heavy. It's kind of like your pitching stick that I've been using for like the 6-inch. I use it with 15-pound fluoro. That's pretty much my standard go-to, 15 to 20. Depends on how kind of cover you're fishing. If I'm actually skipping that bait, because that 6-inch skips really good. If I'm skipping it around docks, I'm gonna go to 20-pound. Just because I don't really want a super fast fall rate, and I want to be able to, if the fish gets me wrapped on something, I want just a little extra, I guess, peace of mind that he's not going to break me off so easy. I mean, let's be honest, these are not cheap. It's an investment. You don't want to lose your bait just because you decide to use too small of a line. I had a buddy who kept trying to use 12-pound tests. I kept asking him why. I'm like, how many of you lost to these? He said, oh, 4 or 5, maybe 6. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Me personally, I would rather make sure I can get the fish back out. When it comes to big swim baits or swim baits in general, except for the little small, like your well, the word kind of left me. Kitex, like your smaller Kitex, like the 3 and 4 inch Kitex, or the Strike King version of it, the Sexy Swimmer. Those, you want lighter line. I mean, I like to fish those on like 8 to 10, even sometimes 12. I'm using like my bait caster on 12-pound test fluorocarbon. But when you're using this big of a bait, the bass don't really seem to get line shy. I've watched bass come out and just basically truck it in like super gin clear water. I'm like just slow rolling it by a dock, and they'll come out and just boosh. I've seen a 2-pounder come out and just crush this. He had it in his mouth, balled up like this inside his mouth. So you can't tell me you can't catch like small fish on a big bait. Because he had that whole thing, he had to have hit it from the side and crushed it in like this. And was he wanted it. He wanted it bad. Well, guys, I'm gonna go and wrap this video up. One other thing I want to mention to you: some of this cheap line from AliExpress and stuff that I've got, this braided line, it doesn't hold its color. Like I've got the sapphire blue, and I've got the yellow, and I've got the well, this one here, this like bright chartreuse green, and I've got the that red braid, and it's like after a day of fishing, almost the whole line of where you're casting it is white, where the color is kind of gone out of it. So I'm gonna call this AliExpress braid. I haven't tried all the ones I got yet. I'm still keep trying them, but for the most part, from what I found, the first like the 4 or 5 different ones that I've tried so far, I'm gonna say fail. Just because who wants to have braid when you buy like a colored braid, have the color come out of the braid? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Well, guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It doesn't take much. I mean, I'm just trying to get things built. If you find this information helpful, pass it on to somebody else. Share it with them. Anybody else want to swim bait? You can ask me any kind of questions you want to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. I reply to everybody that messages me. You can message me on Facebook at Brian DeMott on Facebook. DBB Fishing on Instagram. I mean, I'm just trying to get this channel growing. Gonna have you guys in the boat with me a lot here coming up pretty soon. This right here is actually my favorite color. I forgot to mention that. This is what's called the whiteback shad. You see it's kind of translucent down here. They call it white. Well, it's more kind of like a grayish blue hue on the top, but it is white across here as well, a little bit darker. This is probably this is my favorite color as far as like the MagDraft goes. This is my absolute favorite. It catches fish everywhere. Stain to clear. There's some other things I'm gonna use. The MB Gizzard. I'm gonna use the IU. Especially using the IU, especially if they're feeding on bluegill. That's the main 3 colors that I use, and mostly I use this one. Well, guys, you have a great day. Have tight lines. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.